Okay, so this is a short-term review of the Tekno EB48SL. I would have had this video made earlier, but I had run into some electronics problems for the past few weeks. My motor that I had died, and then I actually broke a few parts, and it took me like 2 weeks to get all the parts I needed to put this car back together and get it running again. So it's been about a month or so since I should have made this video, but in any case, it should be relatively quick. I want to go over a little bit on what parts broke and what it's like to actually drive the car. The parts that broke are in the front, and I broke two parts. One of the parts that broke is the front hinge pin brace, this guy right here. Okay, that snapped, and I'm not the only one that's broken that. Another guy at my local track also snapped his just today, actually. So this may be a common weak spot on the EB48SL, and it's not that big a deal. It's you can get in a parts bag all four braces, so the front brace, the front brace, the front rear brace, and of course the two for the rear. That whole thing is like $10 for the parts bag. It's not that bad. You can of course get aluminum hinge pin braces, and those are about $20 each, so it's more expensive, about 4 times more expensive per brace. Is that right? Something like that. But it should be more durable. I tend to try to avoid putting aluminum aftermarket parts on my cars because all it does is put the stress elsewhere on the chassis. So if you're not breaking this, maybe you're breaking the arm, maybe you're breaking the caster block or the steering block or something else. So, you know, I try to just run the stock parts and not drive stupid. But I did drive stupid once, and I snapped this bit. I also snapped a diff outdrive. And I was actually a little bit concerned. I should have pointed it out in the build video that these lightweight diff outdrives, there's not a lot of material there, right? You see the part where the dog bone slots into, and then the space in between, a lot of it is shaved out. All that empty space there. That means under the right conditions, if you hit the front wheel hard enough against something and it's positioned just right, it can put enough pressure on the dog bone to force the dog bone to snap the diff outdrive. And that's exactly what happened on this side. So I snapped one diff outdrive and one front hinge pin brace in a single collision. In terms of replacing the outdrives, you can actually use either of the EB48 outdrives or the short course outdrives. And I know this because by accident, I ordered the short course outdrives. As you can see on this side of the chassis, they are a bit bigger in the outer diameter than the buggy outdrives, but it actually does not affect the operation in terms of how much droop you get, the compression. There's no binding or anything like that that takes place, so you could really use either in this buggy. I can only guess, if anything, that they include the smaller EB48 outdrives with this to save weight. I don't know. But it's not a big deal. You could use either. So those are the two things that I broke. Definitely watch out for the front hinge pin brace. If you want to get anything aluminum, probably get that one. But, or you can just spend the same $20 and get 2 sets of spares for all of the hinge pin braces. Okay, so those are the weak spots I've run into so far. Again, I've only really been able to race this for a full day once because of the electronics problems I had and the fact that I broke these parts and had to order parts. But in the one day that I've raced it today, it's a lot of fun. It drives great. With the stock setup the way it is, I guess it is set up to give you a little bit of understeer, if anything. I'm not sure I would call it understeer. I would say that around really tight turns, like 180-degree hairpins, the low-speed steering is a bit lacking. And there's nothing wrong with the chassis. It's just the stock setup as it is. I guess it's geared more for higher speed tracks with more sweeping turns. And if you look at the recent videos I posted of my home track on the outdoor track, that's not what we have. We have a lot of really tight 180-degree turns. So with this box stock setup on this, It's not necessarily difficult to navigate around the track. It's just that on certain parts of the track where you can't use the topography of the surface to help rotate the car, the car does feel a little bit slow around those parts. So you have to force the car to power slide a little bit just to start rotating the car a little bit before you actually get into the turns. You have to turn it a little early sometimes with this kind of a setup. If you want to address that, the simplest thing you can do would be to just lighten the front diff oil. The stock setup is 7,000 in the front, 7,000 in the center, 5,000 in the rear. So you can just go to maybe 5,000 or 3,000 up front. That'll give you more low-speed steering. It's just like loosening a front ball diff on a B44 or something. It has the same effect. So that would help, but of course, that would make the car more twitchy on, if you're going in a straight line. So there's a trade-off there. I'm going to keep the setup as it is. It's good enough. I don't, really care to be super competitive with this, and I drive fast enough with it already. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. Again, this is a pretty quick video, but cool car to drive, a lot of fun. A few weak spots, front hinge pin brace. Watch out for the diff out drives. Those are the only 2 weak spots I really found so far. Otherwise, it's great. I really can't complain too much about it. I did, by the way, purchase, if I flip this over, the DE Racing front and rear skid plates, because I drove this a few times briefly before breaking the car, and I found that the front portion of the chassis and the rear portions were scraping quite a lot. So to save the aluminum, I got these little skid plates from DE Racing. They give you a set of 3 in a single bag. So 1 front, 1 rear, and I guess 1 spare. So definitely invest in those. They're not that expensive. I don't remember how much, maybe 10 bucks or so. Definitely worth getting. And as you can probably also see, I got the Proline clear rear wing. This is proven to be pretty durable so far. It hasn't really cracked or anything. But again, I don't crash that much. But, it's the plastic is maybe a little bit thicker in certain parts than on a standard 10 scale wing. So it should hold up okay if you're not a horrible driver. And I got this wing because, especially on 10 scale tracks, if you run the full size A scale wing, it's a harder wing. And if you flip the car over, it could maybe scrape the track more, dig up more dirt. So this is a kind of a softer wing for 10 scale tracks. Yeah, so that's it for now. And of course, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. I hope this is informative to you, and thanks for watching.